The 2025 Cowboys are officially the 2024 Cincinnati Bengals. And this is something that we talked about preseason, but now it's confirmed because this offense is absolutely unstoppable and it gives them a chance to win every single game. Second in points per game in the NFL, 31.7 points per game from this Cowboys offense, and second in passing yards. And this is just like last year's Bengals, a quarterback that's putting up MVP numbers. Joe Burrow, meet Dak Prescott. A wide receiver 1, that's one of the league's best. Jamar Chase, meet CeeDee Lamb. A wide receiver 2 that's having a career year. T. Higgins, meet George Pickens. A running back that comes out of nowhere and has absolutely balled out. Chase Brown, meet Javonte Williams. And a team that is exciting to watch week in and week out. However, these teams are also identical because these defenses are absolutely awful. So awful that just like the offenses can win a game single-handedly every single week, they can lose to anyone on any given week because their defenses are this bad. Despite a solid performance this week against a banged-up Commanders offense, the Cowboys defense ranks in total yards last, 401 total yards per game against this Cowboys defense. Pass yards, 260 pass yards per game. Last, rush yards, 141 rush yards per game. Third worst. Points per game, 29.4 points per game against this Cowboys defense. Third worst in the NFL. Let's compare that to the 2024 Bengals. Bengals, 25th in total yards, 21st in pass yards, 19th in rush yards, 25th in points per game. This Cowboys defense is even worse than the Bengals defense was last year. And we talked the entire year about how bad the Bengals defense was and how it's letting down Joe Burrow and nobody could possibly overcome a defense. Well, the Cowboys is even worse than that Bengals defense was last season. And again, how'd that work out for the Bengals in 2024? 9-8, and you missed the playoffs. How's it working out for the Cowboys here in 2025? 3-3-1. Okay, hovering around 500. And again, despite a big win versus the Commanders, I still have no confidence in this team to sustain it going forward. So while this team might have the best offense in football, this team is not a real threat because this defense is so incredibly bad. But I got to kick it to these guys. What do you guys think about this comparison with the Cowboys and the Bengals? And are the Cowboys a real threat despite having this terrible defense?
I think they can be a real threat. I definitely think they can. Only because the offense is so lethal. And I know like what you're thinking, how are they a threat without a defense? Look, it's not like the Bengals weren't competing last year with those trash defense. They were 1000% competing every single week. The defense is going to keep them from like possibly missing the playoffs. But with that being said, when you have an offense that is so unbelievably good, and I brought out the notebook for this one.
Oh God, the notebook's back.
Big ass notebook again. Jeez.
So the Cowboys right now, let me go ahead and lean back a bit. They are second in EPA per play. They're second in points per game. They're first in yards per game and second in yards per play. Javonte Williams has 592 yards rushing. That's second in the NFL. Did you guys know that? Matt, I think you knew that. I don't know if Joe did. George Pickens, 607 yards, fourth in the NFL. He's the second option, fifth in the NFL. Apologies. Fifth in the NFL.
No, I was just saying top 5.
He's the second option, and CeeDee Lamb's been out, and that offense is still humming. This team is both top 10 in third down offense and red zone offense. They're elite on both aspects. It's not just they're really good passing the ball. No, they're really good at running the football. They're really good at passing the football, which I think is a major difference between last year's Bengals and this year's Cowboys. I think the Bengals, they could run the football, but not at this rate. Not at the rate that the Cowboys are running right now. Now, and Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is playing like a top 10 QB, and he might be playing like a top 5 QB, if I'm being honest. Okay, second in the NFL in passing yards. He's second in the NFL in touchdowns with 16. Fourth in the NFL in completion percentage, and he's top 10 in passer rating. This offense is insanely good, and I think they can hang these kinds of numbers against any defense. That's what I believe. I think Brian Schottenheimer, you know what, Jerry Jones, I'll shake your head. That was a good hire. This team right here is competitive on the offensive side of the ball because of Brian Schottenheimer. Defensively, look, you miss Michael Parsons. However, what kind of difference does Michael Parsons really make other than that he's a threat on that side? What makes you think that defenses aren't going to key in on a Michael Parsons, right? I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys sneak into the playoffs just because of this offense. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, maybe. I wouldn't be shocked at a 7 seed, I guess, for the Dallas Cowboys, but I wouldn't have been shocked at that for the 2024 Bengals either last year. But I think we all know just as far as how bad this defense is that you just can't have a good playoff, like a sustained playoff run with a defense that's this bad. And they are getting some reinforcements back. DeMarvion Overshown is coming back, who was a linebacker for them last year, who showed out really well last year for them, and he suffered a season-ending knee injury, so he's coming back here maybe this week or probably the week after that. But so that's a big add for them on the defensive side of the ball. It's just not going to be enough. Like, this defense just doesn't have enough to me to really compete in the NFC. But Joe, I got to kick it to you, man. What do you think about this Dallas Cowboys offense, this defense, this comparison to the Bengals, everything involved with this situation?
I mean, they're bad. This defense is bad. Right? There are, I'm doing the numbers right now, right? I think there's 7 teams that have allowed at least 180 points this season on defense. The 2 that have the most wins are the Bengals and the Cowboys. Both have 3 wins. Every other team that's allowed 180 points or more has 2 or less wins. In fact, the only 2-win team that has allowed 180 points is the Las Vegas Raiders. Every other team has either 1 win or none. Of the teams that score 190 points or more, the Cowboys are the only one not to have 5 wins. They only have 3. Yeah, the offense is elite, but the problem is that the defense is historically bad. What do you think? They're going to win the division? No, they're not. So they're a wild card team that's going to go on the road, and your defense can't stop a nosebleed. And you're expecting to go in anywhere. They're at best a first round exit, which is better than I guess we thought they were going to be when they traded Micah Parsons, right? Sure, Dak Prescott's having an MVP-esque season because he's throwing the ball a million times because he has to, because it's a foot race. But it doesn't matter. This is not a good football team, right? And they really haven't played anyone of any sort of substance when it comes to defense. And they put up these numbers like, oh yeah, the Green Bay Packers were great. They tied them. And both defenses in that game gave up, 40 points. The New York Giants, 40-37, and that was without a Jackson Dart, right? And Cam Scatabo. That was still Tyrone Tracy Jr. and Russell Wilson. 31 to the Bears, who they only put up 14 points on. Now that Bears defense can be streaky. The Jets, they allowed 22. The Panthers, they lost to and gave up a 30-burger to. And we watched the Panthers get absolutely dog walk the next week. And then they had the Commanders, who put up 22 points with Marcus Mariota finishing out the game because Jaden Daniels is nursing a hamstring. So you look at the rest of it, they play a lot of home games in the Dome, and a lot of the road games are in domes, so they don't have to worry about the weather. But at the end of the day, you're not doing anything. This team is not good. Sure, the offense is great, but that's what happens when, I'm pretty sure their head coach used to be their offensive coordinator, right? So if one thing's going to be good, you'd at least expect it to be the offense. But that's it. They got no defense. And Matt, correct me if I'm wrong. What wins championships, Matt?
Special teams. Special teams wins championships.
Yeah,
I believe
teams.
That's the famous saying.
Elite
Yeah,
QBs as well. Yes, elite QBs.
I'm just saying, this is not a good team. They're not going to do anything. I completely disagree with Sammy. This offense isn't going to carry them anywhere but possibly a first-round exit.
This has been Between the Uprights. Football is life. The rest is just details.